with our company, right? We set up systems and automations for customers, and we've been polling people and asking them about, how they feel about AI. And overall, online, everyone is so, not everyone, there are a lot of people that are upset about it because they feel like it's going to take away their jobs. But what I do think is that they're not quite aware of the power of it, and they're not thinking about how they can use it to their advantage, and it's essentially going to help them and make them better. It's not necessarily going to take their jobs. And I think it's powerful if you know how to use it, right? And I think what's going to happen is the people that are using it in their business is going to be different than the people that are sitting back and afraid to use it, because the people that are using it to help them in their business, they're going to have such a head start. And it's just a very powerful thing. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. On today's podcast, I have Kitsy Higgins with us. Kitsy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Kesi. I appreciate this.
Awesome. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to pause it 1 second. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. On today's podcast, we have Kitsy Higgins with us. Kitsy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Kesi, for having me. So excited to talk and share about entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Well, okay, I want you to start by telling our audience a little bit about you and who you serve and what you do.
So I help women create a life they're obsessed about. I'm a manifesting master and intuition expert, and I help people create a life that they love by really getting reconnected with themselves. I feel like humanity has made it where we create this amazing life that's 3D. It looks so pretty and it looks so great. And yet we're acknowledging that one of the most important parts of us, which is our feelings. And so it might look gorgeous on the outside. Someone might be like, oh my God, you have such a great life. But if you're being disrespected or dismissed, it's not so great. So I help people reconnect with that inner guidance along with their outer guidance. And I help them also just gain self-awareness, and they value themselves and create more self-worth, which is huge.
Wow. And how did you get into that?
Oh, good question. I was a psychic medium in my local area outside of Pittsburgh, PA. I encourage women to trust their feelings, to trust their intuition hits, to trust their signs and symbols that they were getting that their deceased loved ones were okay. And then I noticed in that small little town, women were becoming more confident in themselves. And I thought, ooh, I want to move this and have it go global. If I made a small impact here with me and my colleagues, imagine what type of, difference you can make globally. And when I did that, I kind of went on my own journey, like thinking I was just going to do that, thinking I'd be a medium, and it didn't feel right. And the last 9 years, I've really had my own journey of getting clarity, feeling my feelings, thinking, what type of life do I want to live? And what does that feel like? And let me feel that all the time, every day. I'm doing it more now, and it's just happening even more. Things are just progressing even faster now. So I've gotten really honest with who I feel would really make me happy. And I think you can do that by just being like, what would make me happy? And what would bring me joy, and what would bring me peace and freedom. And I think when those questions happen, your internalness kind of comes to you and answers that. So I brought my intuition gifts with this new business, and then I've always been successful. So I'm still doing, the thing that makes me So now I'm just teaching others on how to be successful.
And how did you get into being a medium in the first place? Was it a childhood gift, or like, how do you know that you're like intuitively like?
Yeah. Yeah, good question. Well, first I want to say, and there's something I want to speak on. I wanted to be a business owner. I started doing FMLA, FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America. I think back in, what was it, middle school and then high school. So I have a long family history of business owners. I almost opened a local coffee shop in my local area until I checked the building and realized that the man was not paying his taxes. My neighbor said that business building could be taken from you if they start realizing how much he's behind. So I left that. So obviously connection was important to me, because I think coffee shops is all about connection, whether if it's coffee yourself or with other people, it's all about connection. But I started my mediumship business because I started with Reiki, and Reiki is a technique for relaxation and stress reduction.
Mhm.
But I feel that opens up your intuitive awareness and your, if you call them chakras, the chakras of the third eye. So that opens that up, and it allows it to progress. I think a lot of businesses, and I could be wrong, do have that type of intuition relationship where you kind of just know what's right, or you hear what's right. So I think connecting with the business, it's an energy form, and we receive it in the way that's best. I think most business owners are like that. I could be wrong. But that's what books are made with, intuition. That's what artwork is. Someone saw it in the middle of the night and then they created it. Uh, so a lot of things happen within to be created out. And I just think that we need to stop living, one, a mediocre life, and two, to stop and to start really getting honest with ourselves of what would bring us joy and going for our desires.
Okay, wow. So you unpacked a lot for me in that conversation
Sorry.
right now. I I never looked at intuition like that, in the way that you just described it. That's huge. Okay, so you describe it as having the intuition to be able to write a book, having the intuition to do art, all these different art forms. I've never once thought of it as that. And I think people put different words on it and different ways to phrase that same thing. All right. So in terms of where you are now and where you're coming from,
Mm.
how has that helped shape who you are now? Now that you're like using it for your own personal purposes.
Oh, that's such a powerful question. And that's really self-awareness type of question. And I love that. For me, that 9 years have been just pure work on myself. Um, I think there's a piece of me that was not knowing who I was. And the version of me who I am now is a woman that um, knows that not every person is like her. I also understand that I'm over, my jeans are oversized 20. I'm not the normal cultural societal norm of beauty, but I think the societal norms are based on the patriarchy and, thin, tiny, size two. And I think that is changing. I think there's a large group of people changing with that. So the more I'm saying to myself, I don't care what the society thinks is beauty. I know that I'm beautiful. And so rather than looking for validation on the outside of me, I'm going within, and I am I feel like I'm really at a safe and secure place in life. I have a full life, though don't get me wrong, I still lie down on my couch and just veg and watch TV and look at videos and podcasts. So I totally know that, you know, there's still time to relax, but I have a full life, and I know I've really done research to see who I am as a person, both good and bad. Because if you say, oh, well, this is all the good things about me, well, have you seen the bad? And have you flipped that? Like, okay, I'm not a size 2, I'm not a size 16, but hi, what can I have a cat that loves being on video. She's very healing, and liked sessions personally at home and likes it still on video today. So I so I think when you do both those lists, then you're able to reframe that negative list of like, okay, yeah, I'm overweight, but I still have an active life. I am still doing what I can to lose weight or else to try to be at a healthy weight. So when you flip those negative things to a positive, you're able to really see who you are as a person. And then you're able to be like, wow, like I'm a great person. So really who I was 10 years ago before I scaled my business to who I am today is drastically different. I used to accept not the best like behavior in relationships. And I recently heard a quote of people that are successful and wealthy are great at quitting things. And you'd say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you'd say that. But like if you're not being respected in a friendship, you leave. If your feelings aren't being honored by a significant other, you leave. And there's so much in culture of stay. Like I saw I just saw so many relationships that are negative that stayed, and they made quitting be a bad thing. And if we're not being respected, if they are not, they're not, considering us and treating us with kindness, we should be walking away and not allowing ourselves to be doormats. I think us women that are very successful may have seen in our childhood that it was okay to stay. It was okay when our feelings were not being heard or felt or acknowledged. And I'm hoping that there's a tide that's changing so that we are able to make the next generation only accept relationships in their life that treat them with kindness, with love. I just did a post today. I met a guy at a pizza place this weekend, and he said, oh, I had a separation. I went back to my wife. And I said, oh, why? And so in my head, I just wanted to hear why he came back to his wife. I said, why did you come back to your wife? And I thought he was going to say, oh, I loved her. She's amazing. And he said, because I'm worried that someone would not be able to make my pasta sauce the way I like it. I gave him a look. He said, wow, that's a little bit judgy of a look. I was like, uh-huh. I couldn't believe that. I laughed because he was extremely kind and very nice after that. And I think to myself, that woman is sleeping next to that man 5, 10, 15 years later, thinking this man loves her and he's just in it because she makes good pasta sauce. So how often are her feelings not being acknowledged in that relationship? I could imagine a lot. If he's in it for her cooking, her heart is getting beat up. Her feelings are being dismissed and or ignored. And she doesn't know when to quit.
Right.
And I'm hoping that, again, the next generation doesn't have this problem.
Right.
Emma, I'm hoping that also that just our generation are also heeding this advice as well, and really saying, if this person is not keeping my feelings and changing, or
Right.
acknowledging my feelings and changing, that we part ways. This isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And let me ask you. So, typically I ask guests, if you had to give yourself advice, like your younger self, or advice, what advice would you give? But in this case, what boundaries would you have set?
Yeah. Yeah. A
If you could
boundary.
go back, yeah,
Uh,
what boundaries?
if you're not changing after, well, first would be, I, it, you cheat on me, I catch you talking to other women, I'm gone. That's one boundary. It's just, you just leave. There's no purpose of trying. This man does not value you in a sense that is a proper value that a man that truly loves you would. A man that truly loves you and sees you as a dream woman would never dream of screwing it up by texting other women.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. Two, another boundary is that if they are continuously dismissing your emotions after, while you're married, during your marriage, then it's maybe therapy. If nothing's changing, you leave. I feel that men, there is a percentage of men that are kind, loving, caring, compassionate, and a true masculine partner. The rest are people that are either looking for validation, a good cook, or a bed warmer.
Right. Right.
Um,
But even in, let's say, sorry, for in business, what kind of boundaries would you set in business?
oh, well, I think I think even if it's a relationship, I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
For boundaries of business, because I feel that the boundaries that you have in life
Or the
affects your
boundaries.
business. Because the more that they are affecting your personal life, the
Mm-hmm.
more it's just going to bleed into your business. Um,
Mm.
my business boundaries.
So I guess that would work with partnerships too, right? So
Yeah, and
I guess
friendships.
friendships,
I don't know.
maybe clients.
What is an example of a boundary? Oh, okay, great example. I got an intuitive hit on an idea, which I've gotten people to suggest it, and I was just like, no. And then things started to progress fast, and I came up with an idea, and it was keeping me up like 2 weeks ago at like 12 o'clock at night. And I was like, okay, like intuition, this business has to stop. Like I'm cutting off communication of business at like 8 o'clock at night. Or even if you say like at 6, and you just, like, you don't get those intuitive hits, like you get the business ideas and intuition hits, at 8 to 6, and then when your kids are home, or when your significant other shows up, it's done.
Right.
I think that's a really good boundary. I know for me, with doing mediumship, I remember seeing a spirit over someone's head, and I felt like spirit was saying, I need to go to that person and give them a guidance or message. And I said, no, I am not pulling like Teresa Caputo. I honor her, but I just did not want to do business like that. And I just said, if they're meant to come to me, that they will book a session and pay, and I will be willing to do that with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think also payments too. Another example of boundaries would be payments, of
Mm-hmm.
requesting payments ahead before you do something. I think when you do it afterward, it could kind of screw stuff up.
And
But I think boundaries is so important with business, and that's another way of getting clarity on your life.
well, and if you did have to go back and give yourself advice, what advice would that be? And what tool would you give yourself?
Ugh. I recently heard someone say, that the reason, let's say, for instance, we offer a launch and no one buys it. And we have to ask ourselves, do we really need that external validation that what we're doing is right? And that ultimately you just keep going until eventually it meets, customers meet, and where you're at that time meet. And so I think it's more of, there's probably a good year or two where I might have even beat myself up. Actually, I did, because I know when my ex-husband left about 5.5 years ago, I was really at a dark place. And so I let all those rejections of my business back then really put me low to self-esteem. So if I would have just heard that quote of like, you don't need people to say yes for this, and you don't need that external validation. Keep going, keep healing, keep doing what your business and the universe and whoever is showing you, and that eventually things will click. And so that's kind of, now it's like I just get rejection and it slides off my back.
Yeah,
I'm a pro at rejection.
you're in the swing of things, and hey, listen, some will, some won't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I remember watching the Era Tour thing on, what was it, Netflix. And I remember Taylor Swift being like, I can't believe how well this is selling out. And I realized that, oh crap, she's been there too. She's been there where, she thought, it sounded like she was saying that she thought over the years, decades, that things were going to be great, and then they didn't. And then to have seen the Eras Tour be such great success, like you could see in that moment, oh, she's had moments like I have of like questioning, is this ever going to work?
Yeah. And I think every entrepreneur has that feeling, right? You're doing a business, you don't know how people will take it. You don't know how you'll be perceived. So it's really great to hear other people speak. And that's kind of like why I love podcasts, and why I love to do this podcast, is because I get to show to the world everybody goes through things, right? When you're trying to grow their business, and you're not alone, and you're not in a silo,
That's so
like everybody
powerful. And
goes
I
through
think that's so helpful to have. Yeah.
And what are some of the things that have helped you to actually grow your business in terms of just putting yourself out there?
What were the what? I'm so sorry.
No worries. What are some of the tools that you used in order to be able to grow your business?
I think for me, it's shadow work. So what is it? So it's reconnecting with your inner child, and then getting those feelings started, and then really tuning in to what feels right, what doesn't feel right. And then what other things have been really helpful? I think just podcasts and videos. I think those are huge. And I think that in itself is life-changing. I think having someone that's accountable for you is helpful. I've had coaches, I've had therapists, and it's helpful to have someone that's been there before that can kind of pave the way, and you're not feeling completely alone and wasting time. Because coaches, people that's already been through this stuff, can understand it at just a different level than than your mom does. And then this sounds weird, but I think just taking care of yourself, meditating, exercising, because I think entrepreneurship is sometimes we have moments of like, what is it called? What do I call it? It's not disappointment. It's another layer of disappointment. It's defeat. I feel like defeat. I think it's a defeat. So you need little things throughout the day, throughout the week, where it chippers you up. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we do have moments, and I don't know about you, but like I have this big goal. I have about 4 businesses, and I have like a big goal for that and a big goal for that. And every time, every year, you're like, oh, I didn't get that. And it's like you get that moment of like feeling like you're like, oh, I feel defeat. Like it didn't happen yet. So, but I've realized that that's kind of like our end goal. And like
Mm-hmm.
we essentially have to, that's kind of like our Northern Star, and we just have to like go towards it.
Right.
And so it might not happen tomorrow. It will happen. It already did happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think also switching your mindset just recently, I thought, oh, I'm not on the right track. And like, I'm doing this all wrong. And I, I was like, wait, I was like, that is a really negative thought. And like, what if because I'm in it so much, I can't see all what's happening, and I
Yeah.
can't see everything. So I was like, is this true? I said no. And then I was like, what can I take? Or like what feels right for me to say? And I said, I can't see it right now. And that's why I don't think I'm on the right track. And
Right.
then I've been listening to it for the last few days in my own voice. So I think also switching mindset. And so you can stop getting rid of that stinking thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And because that in itself, like every time you're listening to it, or every time you're switching that mindset, you are essentially you're bringing in that life that you want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. And what systems you been using to keep yourself on track and keep your business moving?
Yeah. My biggest thing, the first year of my business, which this just tells you how many pieces and parts there are to businesses, is I spent the first year alone doing the software and looking for things and solving things in my business. I have digital courses that I sell. So I had to figure out a way. And this was 8 years ago. So back then there wasn't that many coaches back then.
Right.
So there wasn't as much things. There was Kajabi, there's Sendowl. Now there's probably 5 more other options.
Mm-hmm.
But back then it was those 2. And so I had to figure out, how do I make it where people can get the digital course without me being involved. And
Right.
so I found Sendowl for that. And I think that that's huge, like to create something, to record something, and then to put it, and then literally it's available for someone to buy it, and then they get it within minutes. Like that's just amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think also the online business structure in itself is huge, because
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it, it's just so automated. Two
Right.
years before I 2 years before I came up with doing this business, I remember being in the car with my ex-husband leaving the zoo. I don't know why it was the zoo, but I just remember it. And I said, I would love it to create a business where I do videos, and then the people who are meant to see it gets it at the time they're meant to. And to me, I feel like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of that stuff is just like a whole bunch of intuitive messages.
Yeah. It's come a far way. It's come a far way. It
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, like, really, like, it's amazing how you'll watch this video and you'll be like, oh my God, that's perfect advice for me at this moment. Like, what was the likelihood?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I think that just these platforms in general are huge. And how we can create something where people can get it at the time that's right for them is
Mm-hmm.
just amazing. It allows us, the business owners, to create this amazing business, and that it doesn't require our energy, and that it can be done bit by bit over time, to create really massive structures and massive systems. Like
Mm-hmm.
to you, you might be like, oh, this is just a woman. But to me, I spent the last 9, 10 years, we'll say 9, no, almost 10 years, creating systems and structures in my business, and with this helping women create a life that they're obsessed about. So it's very, the knowledge that we have behind us and in our heads are just they're so vast. And to be able to put that online, to monetize that, it's just, it's showing how powerful, one, this world is, and two, that that we can be creating something again without us needing to be there all the time.
And what were the best, other than Send All, were there any other systems that you found that you really liked that helped shift? I mean, now that technology is shifting, have you found any other platforms that you really like that you think?
Yeah, for me also, when I was doing individual readings, was Acquity, ACUITY. And I'll never forget so at that time I was dealing with email back and forth to negotiate dates. And it was so frustrating. So I set a boundary. I'm like, I'm done negotiating dates with people. I'm going to find a system that I just send someone a link and then all of a sudden they can book it. So I've saved time. And my mom, who obviously is not my ideal customer, said, I don't think people are going to like that. And that's going to take away from the customer experience. And I'm thinking to myself, if you have a haircut, more than likely, you're getting a system. You're not getting the hairstylist. You're getting the secretary, or you're getting some computer system. So I think she's kind of incorrect about that. But I did that, and that just freed up so much time. And then I was able to really focus on just my website, doing readings, and then showing up for the reading. So that saved a good 3 hours and just feeling frustration over going back and forth on times. And it was just really involving. So I really think that Acquity scheduling is great for being able to, if you're at that time where you're just like, I'm tired of negotiating dates, and also you put in your schedule, and then you put it so that essentially you're setting that all up, saying these are the dates that work. And then after that, you're just showing it, and then people can make that appointment. You can also embed it on a website. So you just straight up, I think this time in society, which I think it's just going to get better, but this time in society is so big with automation, and more and more people are going automated. But do we want us to be back 10 years ago or 20 years ago? Or do we want to be where we are now, where we can let go of all of that computer things and let us just do what we're meant to be doing and being in our genius?
And you know what? I love that you said that, because with our company, right, we set up systems and automations for customers. And we've been polling people and asking them about, how they feel about AI. And overall, online, everyone is not everyone. There are a lot of people that are upset about it because they feel like it's going to take away their jobs. But what I do think is that they're not quite aware of the power of it, and they're not thinking about how they can use it to their advantage. And it's essentially going to help them and make them better. It's not necessarily going to take their jobs. And I think it's powerful if you know how to use it, right? And I think what's going to happen is the people that are using it in their business is going to be different than the people that are sitting back and afraid to use it. Because the people that are using it to help them in their business, they're going to have such a head start. And it's just a very powerful thing,
Yeah, I totally agree. I have an assistant, and she's not 40 hours, she's a few hours a month. And I remember I would spend a good at least hour, if not an hour and a half of my time with her, asking for her to create graphics for me. And then I'll go back and forth on, no, I have it like this, no, I like it like that, do this. It was at least 5 times a month. And since there's AI, I can just get AI to do it. And it creates just as good, if not better. You got to be specific with it. But then now I'm like, this is great. Now I have an extra hour and a half with her that I can actually have her do things that actually will get things off my plate, like customer contact or emails that I don't want to
Following up.
touch
Yep.
or other things. So I definitely see that. Plus sometimes like just today I saw something and I was like, ooh, I asked AI, I said, how can you turn this and make it be in regards to someone that's creating their dream life? And I decided just to let it go because it couldn't really figure out a way how to do it. And I was like, I don't like it. So I tweaked it a little bit. And so it was great of me asking, like, how can I make this great graphic or info, make it into a post? And then like, you either accept it and say, oh, this is a great idea, or you say, no, this isn't going to work. So it's great with that too, of kind of tying it in sometimes where you're just like, I can't figure out how to tie this in. And sometimes it comes up with those little things that just can save us a whole hour. We could sit on that question for like an hour and be like, how can I tie this in? It's like, no, just add Chat GPT. It'll tell you in 1 minute. Done. So you save tons of time.
And time is money.
Yeah, time is money for sure.
Time is money, and you definitely cannot get that time back. So it's one of those things that is often, I think most people don't think back to television or some of the things that have changed over the period. Like, for example, before, we used to have that little box that we used to have on top with the antennas, right, to get signal. And as technology changed, yes, you had some pushback on it. People were like, why do we have to go digital? Why do we need this box? Why do we have to conform? But over time, things have changed, but people adapt. And I think that's the same thing that is going to happen. People will adapt, and it'll become part of the norm. Like, this is how we use that thing, and it will become less scary.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I remember many years ago, like 12 years ago, someone said that there'd be less humans working in the job industry so that it would allow the humans or people to do what they're meant to do and to be in their zone of genius and to like bring the gifts that they have onto this earth, and that all the jobs that were essentially like automated or possibly be automated happen. And I was like, wow. And you can see when I first heard that, how that has happened. And yeah, it's like what you said, there's a lot of people who feel, it's bad, but it's for people like us, for people that are juggling, or, again, like trying to figure things out or have like a solution or tying things in, it's extremely helpful. And that's just AI. That's not including, and I live in Pittsburgh, and they have in Carnegie Mellon, they were doing a robot that would be a waitress, which they have done that in some places. Like I know that there's a sushi restaurant in Pittsburgh that does that. So, so more and more, it's becoming more and more. But again, to me, I look at it as a good thing. Like what that person said is that it's allowing us to do our zone of genius. And then it's allowing the things that just don't need that is able to be automated happen. That we are an advanced society, and that's going to happen.
And how are you guiding people when they come to you like, listen, this is where I am. I'm kind of stuck in that place in my life, and I'm seeing all of these changes happen. Like, how are you guiding them now opposed to how you used to guide them before?
Oh. You mean in regards to AI, or you mean in regards to their life?
Just in regards to their life, because I'm sure people are now conflicted, that have businesses, that have concerns about growth, that have all these different concerns. Like, what does it look like right now to guide someone?
Yeah, what I believe is that when we go after a goal and a dream, there's two things that happen. Is one is that we are at a specific timeline, is what the word is. And that when we want to go after something different, it's a different timeline.
Mm.
And there's various timelines happening at the same time. It's just essentially you pick and then you go after it. And so that's one thing, is that literally if you're having a desire or dream, you're going to collapse that old timeline and create the new. So that's one thing, is to understand that while you are going after that goal, you're going to experience things throughout your life that is going to shape you into the version of you, of your desired outcome. So for me, just to being totally vulnerable, I desire a successful online business where I'm helping a lot of women, where I am helping them be more confident in themselves, creating a life from the inside out, and really reconnecting and joining their masculine, feminine, or their emotions and their mental together to create a life that's amazing. And that when you do that, you're going to experience negative experiences that will shape you into the version of you to create that outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in those experiences over that period where it's going to be tough, where it's going to be confusing, where it's going to be sad, where you're going to feel mad, where you're going to feel frustration, you're going to feel defeat. But it's all about that end goal of getting to that end version of you. And then, maybe you'll have another goal of, I want to, now that I've hit 1 million, now I want to go to 5 million. It all depends on what that next version, once you've hit that. But so essentially during that period, understand that when you're going from one dream to another, you're essentially going to shift timelines, and that old life will collapse because you don't want it anymore. It shows you just how powerful you are and how powerful your dreams are. And then 2 is dealing and embracing and accepting and allowing the change to occur when you are growing into the version of you that your end desire is going to be. I think it's a very vulnerable experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that it would be a very vulnerable experience, because in order to accept and to shift into that version of you, there are a lot of things that you do have to encounter in order to do so, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I definitely agree with that one.
Yeah, like it's we look at all these famous people. I just said to my son yesterday, I was like, I don't think famous people talk enough, or they don't talk a lot about what they did to have to get to where they are. They do talk about the struggle. Sometimes they'll talk about being homeless. They'll talk about living in a car for 5 years. That is an example of that living in a car, being homeless, that shaped them. And so sometimes the things that you desire is going to shape you, and it might be the hardest thing you will ever encounter. And yet, for whatever reason, if you trust your inner guidance, you trust your inner voice or your dreams, that somehow that's best for you.
Right. I think about it often that if my business didn't fail back then, I would never have started this podcast. I never would have gotten into systems. I never would have met so many amazing people, if that never happened, because I would be along that same timeline, right? But I wouldn't be able to make as much impact too, right? So I see what you're saying. I 100% see what you're saying.
My question too is, did you also notice where your life ended when you came up with this new idea?
That
Did
old
you?
version of me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's what I heard too is that when you collapse the timeline or when like a new dream comes, that or like you go to that next level, that things abruptly leave your life. Like my ex-husband, it wasn't a slow, gradual, uh, therapy and all of that. It was immediate. It was fast. So for whatever reason, me growing and shaping into a new version of myself, he didn't fit in that new life. And so he had to go. He could have tried and he could have like been like, oh, I'm gonna, go alongside of you. But who's to say if he would have? But because for whatever reason I was growing and expanding and scaling and we no longer aligned, and I just, again, that just shows the power of your dreams and how you can have one dream and you're like, okay, nope, I'm done. Then you create a new one and like that whole life just leaves.
Yeah.
Relationships leave, friendships
Yep.
leave, um,
Yep.
houses leave, cities leave. And you're just like, what happened to me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing about it is you look back and not even recognize that version of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I love that. And I believe that I believe in past lives, and yet I believe that we're only in this life with this meat suit for one time. We might have other lives and other meat suits, but in this one we're here, and like it's important to be living our best life and really only allowing great people in that care about us and we care about them, and that they pour into us and we pour into them. And um those other lives that we lived, they might not have done that. And it's great to be able to see the transformation and that growth.
Mm. Yep, I agree. Kitsy, how can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's beginmydreamlife.com. And then I have a whole bunch. I have a few courses. I have spiritual courses, Reiki, intuition. And then I have a life coaching courses, there's 5 videos, and it's the steps to becoming worthy, which really, that's kind of like I think is the hardest part of the journey of
Right.
creating a life that you love, is that you have to work with your nervous system to accept that great thing. And part of that nervous system is knowing your worth. So you can't allow those great, amazing relationships, love, friendships, money, if your system is at a specific capacity.
Do you feel like
So,
that's where you should start?
pardon?
Do you feel like that's where they should start with that course?
Yeah. If you're saying, oh, I desire to create a life that's better, or I'm being treated better, that's the journey. And then so that's like the big thing that I really recommend to people. And then I'm on Facebook with my name, Kitsy Higgins. And then I'm also on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
Love that. Everyone, thank you. Kitsy, thank you so much for joining us today.
You, Kesi. This was awesome. I loved it.
Likewise. Kitsy, have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.